All righty, I've got 502. Kelly, you ready to get started?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. Appreciate you all being here. This is something new for us. My name is Chip Reeves. I'm the president of Bigger Brains, and a lot of you know us as the e-learning company. We make a lot of off-the-shelf e-learning content. We don't do a lot of live training. And when the coronavirus situation hit, and there were a lot of people who were working from home or working from home a lot more than they used to for the first time, we wanted to do something to help. And the first thing we did was we made some free training available on YouTube and some other stuff. You can see that on our blog. But I reached out to our instructors because we have some really excellent instructors who primarily teach around the Microsoft software suite, but also some other topics as well, as you'll see. And asked them if we could put together some live training specifically geared towards people who are working from home. And that's what became this. We call it Work from Home Tech Training Tuesday because we couldn't think of a shorter name. And so this is the first Tuesday. We'll be doing this every Tuesday for the foreseeable future. We have 6 of these lined up. We'll talk about the first 4. That'll be every Tuesday at 5 o'clock Eastern Time, US. And the format will be, we'll have one of our expert teachers. Today is Kelly Vandever, who will come in and teach an aspect of a tool or a technique that people who are working from home can use to be more productive. And then we're going to open it up for some general Q&A. And the Q&A might be related to what we talk about in the training, or it might be related to anything else. That will be up to you guys and what you put in your queues. Go ahead, Kelly. We can go ahead to the next slide. So just normal housekeeping. This is a Zoom webinar, which is a little different from a Zoom meeting. We've learned a couple of unfortunate differences in that one of the things we wanted to do to really show off how PowerPoint works online is not going to work on a webinar. It works great on a meeting, doesn't work on a webinar. But one of the things a webinar means is that all of you guys who are attendees, you're automatically muted. If towards the end, when we're in the Q&A time, if you want to ask a question verbally, then there's a button that says raise hand. And if you raise your hand, that'll be our cue to unmute you and let you ask your question. You can also post questions anytime in the chat. So there's a chat window. It should be a chat button down at the bottom of your Zoom menu or at the top of your Zoom menu, depending on what device you're on. And you can type any question you want to there in the chat, and we will do our best to answer. We're going to post a recording of today's webinar on our YouTube channel. That's the Bigger Brains YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/biggerbrains743. And of course, wash your hands. Next slide. So our next sessions are going to be starting next week with Amy Babinchak. Amy is the owner of Third Tier Technologies and also Harbor Computer Services. She's a well-known expert in the IT industry. She's going to be talking about working in Microsoft Teams. After that, on April 7th, we'll have Robert Crane. Robert Crane owns and runs a company called the Computer Information Agency in Sydney, Australia. And he's going to be talking to us about one of his favorite topics, which is being productive in OneNote. And then on April 14th, also at 5 p.m., we're going to have Dr. Rebecca Heiss, one of our favorite teachers, who's going to come on and talk about something that's not software related, but something that all of us can relate to, which is dealing with dis-ease, dealing with the stress caused by living in the world that we find ourselves in today. We also have 2 unconfirmed but likely sessions coming up after that. One's going to be on SharePoint and one's going to be on Microsoft Planner and Teams. So look for those in the near future. Next slide. And this is all brought to you by Bigger Brains. If you're not familiar with us, be sure to check out our website. We have put some of our training available for free on YouTube, especially our Microsoft Teams Essentials course, which is our shorter Microsoft Teams course, but it's an easy way to get up to speed with Microsoft Teams for a lot of you that are working from home the first time. Check that out on our YouTube link, the same link I gave before. You'll also see a lot of this information in the blog on our website. So getbiggerbrains.com, click on the blog, and you'll see a lot of this information as well. And next slide. There we go. So today we wanted to start things off right. And I asked one of our most experienced teachers, Kelly Vandever. I knew Kelly from my corporate career before we even started Bigger Brains. She had done some presentation skills training for my previous company, which was a group of computer technicians. And if you want to have one of the hardest challenges you can do, try to teach presentation skills training to a bunch of computer technicians who, I love my computer technician people, I am one, but we are not necessarily known for our people skills and our salesmanship. And so Kelly had a tough job to do, and she did a fantastic job. So when we started putting together courses for Bigger Brains, I knew I wanted to get Kelly involved, both for teaching PowerPoint, and she also teaches presentation skills in our Power Up PowerPoint course and does a great job with that. She's also been involved in our storytelling course and our ethics course over the years. And Kelly, did I miss any? I think that's most of them.
I think that's it, yeah.
So Kelly owns her own business, professionallyhuman.com. She's an experienced corporate trainer known for her workshops on presentation skills and collaboration. And as I mentioned, she teaches or co-teaches 9 e-learning courses with Bigger Brains. So Kelly, I'll turn things over to you.
All right, thank you, Chip. So this is why we're here, right? Because we're all having to deal with a new reality. The hardest part for me to get used to is that I am now in an at-risk group. That's my, because of my age, I'm still resisting that a little bit. But I was on the phone about an hour ago with the secretary from a law firm, and she was saying, hold on just a minute. She's working from home and has 3 teenagers, and one of them needed her attention at that exact moment. So we're all adjusting, and that's what we're here talking about. Through the vehicle of PowerPoint. Because you've got PowerPoint, you're able to present online. So this might be a great tool for you to use as we're going through these new and interesting times. In order to do this, you'll need PowerPoint 2013 or newer. And you might ask yourself, why PowerPoint? There are other tools, obviously, that we could use. But when you are having a phone conversation and you have a lot of numbers going out there, that's not necessarily going to equate with your audience. So you may need some visual aids. And some of the advantages we have with PowerPoint is you already have PowerPoint. I'm assuming that's why you're here. The audience doesn't need PowerPoint in order to be able to see what they're doing. And we're going to demonstrate that a little later. Broadcasting is free. I like free, and you don't have to sign up for yet another app in order to join. And the cool thing is you can still share audio and video as part of using PowerPoint. So let's talk about a couple of drawbacks though. You do need a phone and a screen. Now, like we're using Zoom, we can talk through the computer, but we're not able to do that with when we're doing a PowerPoint presentation online. So you will need whoever you're talking with has to have a phone too, as well as a way of looking at it. And there are other drawbacks, but we'll just touch on those as we come across them. All right, so many of you know of me as a PowerPoint presentation person. So I wanted to put this in a real world context. Let's imagine for a minute that I'm a real estate agent in Georgia. Oh wait, that is my other gig. I'm a real estate agent, and we are looking for ways to help people sell their houses virtually. And this would be a great tool for that. Now, so that's what we're gonna imagine, that I'm trying to sell a house of somebody, but they don't want me to walk through the door. So how do we do that with PowerPoint? So you will need slides to get yourself started. And I already had some ready and available. This is not going to be a good tool for collaborating. It's not a good tool for if you are trying to develop something on the fly. There are other tools that may be good for that. But for using PowerPoint online and presenting online, you will need slides to do that. And one of the first steps you want to do is if you do have some video or audio that's attached to it, you want to optimize it. So what does that mean? All right, so we are going to, I'm going to jump out of the PowerPoint now, and you'll be able to see my screen, and I'm going to walk you through that. So just go to the Backstage view up at File at the top, and down to Info, and that first option there is Optimize. And so by clicking on that, I'm optimizing the video. So what does that mean? It's helping to reduce the size and make it present in a way that most people will be watching it on the internet, that their computers will be able to handle it. So it's a good thing for us to do before we start the presentation. And you'll see in a moment that you'll get a reminder of that in case you forget. But that's all it takes, is to optimize any media that you will have in it.
So if I'm a salesperson and I'm wanting to do a sales pitch virtually through the internet, or if I'm a trainer and I want to teach a class through the internet using PowerPoint, or if I'm anybody who's trying to communicate, a manager who's trying to communicate new directives or new products or whatever with my team, I don't want them to be held up with technical issues. I don't want them to have a long time to download the slide deck. So we'd want to optimize media ahead of time to make sure that they don't have those kinds of issues.
Exactly. Good. All right. So the next part there is, let's broadcast. Should we see what this looks like? Well, one of the drawbacks of this particular platform is that everyone has to be ready. So you don't get a link ahead of time. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So if you go up to Slideshow at the top here and present online, we're in this Slideshow group. We're going to create a link in a moment here, but let me talk about this real quick. You can see you have the option to enable viewers to download the presentation. If that's something that's important to you, you can do that. I'm going to leave it unchecked. And there's that reminder to optimize your media, but we've already done that. And of course, you might want to read the service agreement. You read all those, right, Chip?
I've never read one in my life.
All right. All right, so go ahead and we'll hit the connect button, and it'll take a little bit while it uploads the presentation into a service that allows us to share it. And we'll keep our fingers crossed it doesn't take too long to load.
And so just to be clear, this is a way that you can share PowerPoint or give a presentation to somebody online without Zoom, without Teams, without any kind of special software, just strictly using PowerPoint itself.
Right, and using PowerPoint, but you also obviously have to dial into to a conference call number or something like that, or if it's just a one-on-one conversation, then you can just make a phone call, but you have to have that available too, because the audio doesn't come through in the PowerPoint slides. You can show videos, and the videos will have audio in them, but you actually can't talk back and forth to the person you're presenting to. Was there a question in the chat?
I see Larry suggesting freeconferencecall.com, which is a great free conferencing service. One of the things I'm noticing, though, especially the last couple of days, and for anybody watching the recording, this is late March 2020, kind of the beginning of the middle, maybe, of the coronavirus epidemic, we hope. And one thing I've noticed, especially this week, is a lot of the online sharing services, Microsoft Teams and Zoom, have started to have technical difficulties. We've had a couple of meetings that have either died, or they've had audio issues or video issues, or people have gotten dropped off just because the load right now is so much more than they were meant to handle. Microsoft issued another bulletin on that today about Teams. They're adjusting things to handle it, and I think within a few weeks we'll be fine. But right now, using something like this, that's a different service that a lot of people are not using, might be an extra advantage.
Exactly. Okay, so it gives us this link. And I mentioned the drawback being that everybody has to be ready. The link is the one-time link. So if we were to exit out of this presentation and start another online presentation again, then that link would not work. All right, so we're gonna, I'm gonna ask you.
I think we have a good question that I want to interrupt you with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why wouldn't you just use Zoom? Like, what's the benefit? I know we talked about benefits, but what does this really gain you over using Zoom? That's a question in the chat.
Well, if you don't have a Zoom account, that might be one way to do it. Chip, you look like you have an answer too. Probably better answer.
So it depends on your situation, I think. If it's something like this, where you're going to be communicating with a lot of people and there's going to be a lot of back and forth, then yeah, Zoom is what you want to use, or Teams, or Join.me, or WebEx, or whatever. You need some kind of a meeting platform. But if you're communicating one-on-one in particular, or with a small group of people, like in a sales presentation, or like in a management meeting, or like in a training session where you're just training a small number of people, this can be an easier way to do it. Especially if you're already talking to them on the phone, and you want to be able to share some information, then here's a way you can do it that's free. They don't have to go to a special website. They don't have to type in a special code. They don't have to have a special app on their computer. They're just going to click on this link and they'll be able to see what you're showing in the slideshow.
So does that help? Does that answer the question?
We'll assume yes.
I'll
Okay.
let you know if it types anything else.
Okay, cool, cool. All right, so I am going to put this link in the chat box. You can obviously, if you notice the screen here, you can copy the link or you can send it by an email. That's what I mean by everybody's got to be ready. You don't get the link to start the presentation until as you're getting ready to start the presentation. So what I'm going to ask everybody to do is go ahead and click through that link. I've got two computer instances open, or excuse me, just two computers open. And I'm going to do the same thing as I'm asking you.
Just FYI, Kelly, when you sent it, you only sent it to the panelists. So I just copied it and resent it to everyone.
Oh, thank you, Jackie. I appreciate that. Okay. And hopefully everybody, maybe you can give us a yes in the chat box when you've got it open, and I'll ask you to resize it and then see if you can get your Zoom on one side of your screen and your website on the other side of the screen, so you can see both. And I'm trying to manhandle that myself right now.
And just to vent my own complaint, so Kelly and I practiced this for a couple of hours yesterday, and we worked out a great way to do it where we were going to be sharing my screen, and I would have the Zoom on one side and her PowerPoint presentation on the other side, and you guys would see a great side-by-side comparison. And it turns out that feature works in Zoom meetings, does not work in Zoom webinars. So here we are having to let you recreate it at home.
All right, and I'm having trouble getting my screen small enough so that I can see. Let's see what y'all are
everybody in the chat, you should see waiting for presentation, because notice on Kelly's screen, she hasn't clicked the button that says start presentation yet.
All right, so Chip, if anybody else is having issues trying to get these things parallel to each other.
Oh, you want to know the secret?
Yes.
Okay. So if you want to get two things side by side on your monitor, an easy way to do it in Windows is click on one, press the Windows key and the left arrow. So hold down the Windows key, press the left arrow. That'll snap it to the left half of your monitor. And depending on which version of Windows you have, it may then ask you to choose what you want in the right half. If it does, click on it and that'll become the right half. If it doesn't ask you, then just toggle through and find the other app and then press Windows key and right, and that'll snap it to the right half. So that's an easy way to do things side by side in Windows 10. On the Mac, it's not so easy, but there is an app you can download and add to your Mac to make it work, which I did because I like that feature so much.
Okay. Well, I did not download it, so I will. But what I am seeing now is the same screen that you guys are seeing. So that's the important part. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start the presentation. And so hopefully you're able to get your screens side by side and see what we're seeing in the Zoom window and what you're seeing through the website. So the online version of the presentation. So we're starts at the beginning because that's where we left off. So I'm just going to click through the slides. There's a little bit of delay you might notice, but not too bad of a delay actually. Again, that's going to depend on the bandwidth issues with everything that's going on these days. It might be a little slower depending on if the kids are done with their lessons for the day or if they're just getting online to watch their favorite shows and whatnot. Okay. So, all right, we're almost back to where we were. You see some of the transitions will work the same, and you'll notice that sometimes they do not. So we'll kind of point those out as we go. So let's say I'm doing this presentation to somebody who's thinking about selling their home, and in the middle of it, they say, hey, can we add mom and dad to the conversation? And there is a way that we can do that. So I'm going to show you how we do that. So just hit the escape button, and that's going to exit you out of PowerPoint. So if you're able to see both screens, you'll see that the online version is still on this one slide. But when I'm in the backstage here, I'm able to do some things in order to accommodate that request. So there's a place where I can send an invitation, and again, that window pops up. I can copy and paste into my email system, or if your email is connected through Outlook, then you can just email it like that. So yes, you can have people join, and it basically is pausing the presentation. So now I want to go back to the presentation, and I will begin. If you look at the top left here from the current slide, and then we're back in the presentation. I'm going to click again, and you see there's a little bit of a delay, and there the animation comes in, and so I'm resuming the presentation where I left off. Chip, you're muted.
Is that a problem?
Only if you want to hear me, if I want to hear you.
So if I'm a salesperson and I'm presenting to somebody and they say, oh, this is great, but my manager makes those decisions. I wish he could see this or she could see this. This is a good way you can say, hey, but they can, and get around that excuse.
Exactly, exactly. All right, so let's say you're flipping along and you're doing your presentation and you realize something has changed. So the real estate market is a little crazy right now, as you might imagine. So I'm going to do something similar. I'm going to hit escape. So you are still seeing the screen with the current slide on it, and I'm going to make a modification to what I have in the presentation. That's why I'm saying it's not really an on-the-fly kind of tool. It takes a little bit, and then if you're able to see the Zoom window, you can see I'm going to hit resume, and that's going to take us back online. Now, it looks like we might have a little bit of a delay as it resumes. Jackie, was there a question?
There was a question about the difference between Zoom and Zoom webinar, Zoom meeting and Zoom webinar. So it's a bit of a side question. So.
Well, we have a little bit of a delay, so.
Go ahead.
That's the problem. We never know how long the upload is going to take on these Microsoft things. So Zoom meetings and Zoom webinars, same tool, same app. I think there's an extra subscription involved to upgrade to the Zoom webinar. And it's a little annoying when you get into higher numbers, because I learned earlier this week, we've been letting other friends borrow our Zoom account, and some of them needed more than the default limit, which is 100 people. You can upgrade your Zoom meeting to 500 people, but that doesn't give you 500 on the webinar. You can upgrade your webinar to the 500, doesn't give you 500 on the meeting. The main difference is the webinar is designed for this kind of format where you have a limited number of speakers and then a lot of attendees. And so the attendees by default come in muted, like you guys are here, and it's a little more controlled environment. So if you had 100 people, 200 people, 500 people, on a typical Zoom meeting, that'd be kind of a free-for-all of trying to keep people muted, figure out where that background noise is coming from and all that sort of thing. Control who's sharing, because by default, Zoom meetings will let anybody share, although you can change that. Zoom webinars, the panelists have special abilities. We can turn on video, for example. You guys can't turn on your video right now. We can choose to unmute attendees, but attendees cannot choose to unmute themselves. So it's just a little more of a controlled environment.
All right, and now if you look back on your web page, you see that you've got a PowerPoint symbol. It's uploading the new slide with the change that I just made. In theory, it's coming. Again, probably not a good tool for collaborating if you want to make a lot of changes on the fly. So Chip, tell us about the upcoming webinars.
Well, I'm excited about next week. So Amy Babinchak is a legend in the IT industry, and one of the biggest requests by far we've had is for Microsoft Teams training. It's why we put our Microsoft Teams course free on YouTube, the Teams Essentials course. And Amy is a really high-level consultant. She's a Microsoft MVP, Most Valued Professional. Kelly, I'm getting an error message on the
Oh, I am too. Okay, so try to reload and see if that helps.
So I asked Amy to do something on Microsoft Teams, and she's going to talk about specifically how to organize and share your files on Microsoft Teams versus doing it via email or doing it via a shared server, which a lot of us don't have right now.
All right, so this is another,
So all
so
the
just
stuff
like
I
we're,
said about Microsoft being more stable than Zoom or Teams, like throw all that out the window right now.
I think that there's a lot of additional grace that's going along right now between people working from home and kids at home. And so we'll just be a little more patient with each other as we're doing this. Maybe this resuming will help it get back online. Are there any other questions in the chat?
One thing I wanted to share earlier, just to fill space, is that when I was playing with PowerPoint earlier to figure out the broadcasting thing, I looked for the option to optimize media and I didn't see it, but it was because I didn't have any media in there yet. So I was trying to learn about it without having a video. So you won't see that option until you've put the type of media it's looking for.
Okay, so it for some reason it's saying my presentation can't be resumed. So if you're able to see the Zoom call, I'm just going to go ahead and end the presentation, and so you'll see that you should see at some point that it'll show that the presentation's been ended. I'm going to go ahead and see if we can't
Try to restart it.
start again. Yeah. And I will copy the new, I'll try to send it to everybody this time. All right, so Microsoft Teams is next week.
I was just say we had the strange situation with Microsoft with Zoom yesterday. We our local chamber of commerce was running a session on they had a speaker from the SBA talking about the funds that are available for disaster recovery and that sort of thing to help small businesses through the current crisis. And they only had about 75 people on the call, and for some reason, partway during the call, some people could hear the speaker and some people could not. It was about half and half, which was very strange. And it's one of those that I would have thought people were just having their own technical issues, except that it was us that couldn't hear the speaker also. And we wound up having to do the same sort of thing. We had to just stop it and restart it again. So I do think a lot of the online services are struggling right now. As I say, Microsoft, I know as of last week, said that they had seen an increase of 40% in daily usage of Microsoft Teams, which, you know, we think of the cloud as being this magical, you know, thing that just stuff goes to, but really the cloud is a bunch of computers. And traditionally Microsoft and Amazon and Google, the big kind of cloud data centers, they're constantly, that's weird.
Yeah, I got another error message. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lighten the load on this. I'm going to delete a couple of slides that have got some video in them, and we can just talk through that when we get to that part. Sure. So maybe that will help lighten the load. So I'm sorry, you were talking about that, Chip.
Well, just saying that I think that, you know, Microsoft, Amazon, and Google, you know, they're actually adding like thousands of hard drives a week to their normal data centers. And when all of this happened, it's kind of hard to scale up thousands of hard drives a week to, you know, tens of thousands of hard drives a week to maintain this massive extra load. So I think that's a lot of what we're seeing across the board, not to mention everybody's local internet circuit being bombarded with all the kids home from school and everything else.
Yeah, and I'm a member of a networking meeting here in the Atlanta area, and we started meeting via Zoom, and there's not as much traffic at 7 o'clock in the morning on the internet. So pro tips, start your meeting super early. All right, so it looks like it's uploading faster. Maybe that will help us get through it.
Yeah, we did choose 5:30, right when everybody gets home from work on the East Coast. So,
but they're already working from home. So, were there any other questions, Jackie?
Yeah, we do have some questions. One is, what about showing a video on PowerPoint? How well does the optimization work?
It worked well yesterday. But we seem to be having some, that might be part of the issues that we're having today.
And do you know if like the number of us that are connecting has any impact on it?
I mean, it shouldn't. It's Microsoft's cloud. It should scale to, you know, however many, because it's even though it's a free service that's offered through PowerPoint, it is still supported by the Microsoft cloud. So Although, you know what, this is part of, now this is interesting. Some of the video functionality is supported through Microsoft Stream, and Microsoft announced today that they were downgrading Microsoft Stream to try to take some of the load off their servers. That may be part of what we're seeing here with the video portion, at least.
Oh.
And it's expected to be a temporary downgrade. We're all expecting that within a couple of weeks, it'll be back to normal. We'll see.
Okay. So if everybody can go ahead and click in the chat and go ahead and open the thing, we'll go ahead and start the presentation again. And when I was testing this out in a different forum, I tried going from slide 1 to slide 14. If you are doing a presentation, you can just type in the number and it will go automatically to slide 14, but it did not seem to like that in the online version. I really wasn't able to get there quickly or at all. So I'm gonna let you see my beautiful slides yet one more time.
It's like one of the things to watch out for, Kelly, is that this needs to be the kind of situation where you can have that dialogue with the recipient to say, okay, are you seeing this now? Or are you seeing the slide with the numbers? Are you seeing the slide with the house? You know, that sort of thing, to make sure that it's coming through correctly.
Exactly. One thing I do is I have the luxury of a couple of computers, so I will put the second I will put it on another computer so I can see what they're seeing, and well, it's not a guarantee that you'll be seeing the exact same thing, but it's more likely than when you're seeing it go through, like on the Zoom, you see there's a little bit of a delay. Okay, so one of the other disadvantages is that in a regular Microsoft presentation, we can do the markup. So if you're not familiar with those, it's usually down here at the bottom. And if you're seeing it in the Zoom window, I can click there, but I can't use markups in when I'm doing the online presentation. So there is a workaround. So with the markups, I could, just like if I'm doing a side-by-side with a couple that's looking to sell their house, I would point to a line with my finger and say, okay, this is the median days on market, or this is the number of homes that are taking price reductions. But the workaround is to use arrows and other things to draw people's attention like you might do in a presentation. So for instance, we're going to use some animations. In this case, maybe I'm drawing their attention to the fact that we're going to talk about houses in their area versus houses in the general market. And you should be seeing on your screen. Now, if you look at the two different screens, watch when the circle goes on the Zoom screen versus when it goes on the other screen. The animations are a little different, which shouldn't make a huge amount of difference, but just something to be aware of. I always like to test it out on a second computer to see what the audience will be seeing before I actually do the presentation in real life. So you just, again, you're going to have to plan ahead so that as you're talking about different items, the animations can come in, you can draw the audience's attention to it, and then talk about whatever it is that you want to show them about that. So that's one of the workarounds, is to use those animations to help draw attention and emphasize points. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. And then another workaround for that is the using video or audio in connection with your presentation. So I did have a video right here, but I did remove it. So let's talk about how, what the different video options are, and then a couple of the drawbacks of using the videos. So I may go ahead and try this and see if it works. I'm a little worried to do it. What's that?
But sure, give it a try.
All right, so let's talk about inserting media to begin with. Over on the Insert tab, over to the right, you may be familiar with that. There's an option to add media. So you should be hopefully seeing that in the Zoom. With the video options, you have a couple of options. So you can actually import a video from YouTube. And actually I have one, let me pull it back up. So I can just type, copy and paste the URL in there and hit the insert key. And it inserted the video. So it's a connection. You have to have a live connection to the internet for it to be able to play for your audience. So I'm just doing a little manipulation here, make it look pretty. And we're going to resume the presentation. Everybody say a little prayer and you'll see what happens. Oh, I'm getting a message. My internet is unstable, so so I'm thinking the animation workaround is probably the better workaround. That way you don't have to, especially in these times. Once the world goes back to whatever the new normal is going to be, then this might be still a really great tool to use. But because so many people are on the internet, so many people are trying to do things differently, probably adding the animations would be a better choice than trying to add a video.
Chip, we have a question that you might want to answer about, is there a Word and Excel online option? I'm not exactly sure what they mean by that question, but.
So to present and share a Word document online or Excel spreadsheet? No, not directly. However, with the newer versions of Word and Excel, if you have an Office 365 account, there is a share button that will let you share it with multiple people, and they can see the live document or the live spreadsheet, and they can actually edit it with you if that's what you want. So if you have a document, for example, that a team's working on, and even if you're working on page 3 and 4, and they're working on page 75 and 76 or whatever, you can still be in the same document, and you can go and look at the version history to see what they did and see what you did and things like that. So that's the closest that there is with Word and Excel. I see Kelly doing a happy dance.
Yes, it looks like it worked. Okay, so Chip, you might want to mute yourself in case, and I'm gonna try to mute myself too. Okay, this is a really old video, so let me just say that to begin with. So I hit the play button over on my side. You probably saw that in the Zoom, but I'm not seeing anything happening over on the web link that we have. So if you go over to your web link, hover over that little play button and push play now. And you should be hearing. This longer you should be here. Yeah. So are you hearing the video now?
Yes,
hopefully.
When I play it on mine, I can hear it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm hoping that everybody else can hear it too. So a couple of drawbacks here. I hit play, and it may or may not play on your side. So it looks like we have some comments popping up.
Yeah, they're all saying it worked.
Okay, cool. So you have to, also I noticed it with the other videos that I had when I had uploaded a video, when I had created a video. Sometimes it would play for Chip with the volume turned on, but on my computer it wouldn't have played with the volume turned on. So it's just to say that you're not exactly sure what's gonna happen or what they're gonna see and when they're gonna hear it. So just know that going into it.
So I mean, worst case scenario though, you just have to instruct them to press the play button on their side.
Right. Or unmute if that's the case. Now with this, the other drawback here, as I'm seeing it on my side, I'm not seeing it on the side of the my printer monitor that's, on my monitor where the PowerPoint is showing the slides. I'm not seeing these more videos pop up, but I did notice yesterday when we were doing it, more videos were popping up. So that could be a distraction. If you're doing a presentation or if you're talking to a client or a prospect and if they get distracted by your presentation, they might click through and because these are all going to be clickable. So just something to be aware of.
And that's true when you use YouTube for the link. Now you can embed your own video in the slide and that won't have that problem. But the issue there, like we saw before, is that takes a longer time to upload to the cloud to start playing. So there's more chance of it having issues with the current bandwidth situations.
Correct, correct. All right, so I'm going to escape out of there. Okay. So we were over on the insert tab and inserting media. So we can still insert media from a file. Audio works the same way, or you can record audio, and that's we just click that. So you could actually add a little bit of sound, and that's going to take up less space and less bandwidth in your presentation. So just hit the, I'm not going to do it now, but you just click the button, you'll get a countdown, just say what you're going to say, and it'll attach an audio file to this slide. And again, depending on the way you have that audio file set up, it might play automatically, or you might have to instruct them, go click this, and then it'll start to play. Looks like you were going to say something, Chip.
No, I'm just laughing at Lester's comment in the chat, but we'll talk about that later.
Oh, okay.
Oh, is it a joke?
Okay. The other thing that, another way that you can record a video that you can then use in a presentation like this is the screen recording. So we're actually talking about some different functionality here than just PowerPoint. So for instance, I was going to go over here.
And exit out of the top first and then come back in.
Okay, well, first, I guess evidently I'm going to have to, so you get this little square here that you can open, and what it is that you want to record in the screen flow. And now I can close that and go to, so say I have this website and I just want to record. So I push and record, I get the time thing. And I'm telling people, oh, go to next week's presentation. Here's where the website is. Here's where you click to go ahead and register. And then I can stop recording. I just hover to the top and I can stop it. You do have options to record the audio, record the pointer or not, depending on if you unselect it. And then it just inputs that video into the presentation. And that's just automatically done. So by the way, you can right click on this and save this as a file too, if you wanted to use it for a different format.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. There's some things that PowerPoint does now that we used to buy a separate program for. I'm thinking about this in particular, and also the background remover for pictures. I mean, a lot of times I find myself coming into PowerPoint, like if I need to make some instructions for somebody, if I'm trying to walk my mother through how to do something online. She's not the most tech savvy person. I don't mean to make fun of my mother. She's a wonderful person, but she's not great with technology. And if I want to walk her through step by step how to do something, you know, in the old days, I might get Camtasia or I might get ScreenFlow on the Mac or OBS or something. Now, if I want to do that, I can literally come into PowerPoint, use this screen recorder, record the steps, record my audio narrating. So you click here and then come down to this menu and click here, give those instructions. It puts it in a PowerPoint slide, and that's great. You can send the PowerPoint slide out. You can show it to them online like we're doing here. But like Kelly said, you can also right-click on it, save it as a video, post it on YouTube, post it on Facebook, post it wherever it is your tech-challenged mother looks for videos. It's a really powerful feature that's just one little feature inside PowerPoint that used to be a whole nother program.
Exactly.
Yeah, that kind of connects to a question we had about would it be better to use PowerPoint or something like Screencast? And to me, it seems like it's almost, yeah, some things PowerPoint does really well that just surprises you. Because it seems like so simple to use this, or to turn off the audio, or turn it back on, or pause it, or stop it. So,
yeah, I'm not familiar with Screencast specifically, but I've got a lot of screen recording software, and again, kind of depending on what you're doing, if it's a single monitor, PowerPoint's going to do everything you want, really. Now that it's not as easy to edit the video inside PowerPoint as it would be in like a Screencast app, so that may be the thing. If you made some mistakes and you want to trim those out, then a professional screen recording software might be better. Another option is to come back into PowerPoint, delete the one you made the first time, and do it better. So it just kind of depends on what you have.
Yeah, you can do some editing of videos in PowerPoint, but you basically can just trim the ends. You can't really modify things in the middle. But yeah, and it's right there for you. If you got PowerPoint already, there you go. All right, so that was the screen capture part. The other thing you can do is record a slideshow. So I'm going to demonstrate that next. So here's where I've got all the animations that I've added, and maybe I want to turn that into a way for people to watch it. So I'll go back over here to, oh, it's not going to let me do it, is it, while I'm presenting online? So I'm going to go ahead and end the presentation since we've already kind of seen how that part works. I'm going to end the presentation. And then over here on the slideshow tab, there's this record a slideshow. And when I click on that, what all the animation is there, you don't see it moving or anything yet, but when you go to hit record, it'll give you the countdown, and then you can just narrate through the slides. So for instance, I'm talking to the client, I'm telling them these things, draw your attention to the differences here and what the end result will be. So I'm telling them the important things I want them to know. And as I'm speaking, it's recording it. And when I'm done, I just stop. And you can even replay what you just recorded. So now I'm on one slide right there. Okay, so we don't get the voice going too bad. But let me close out. I'm sorry, go ahead, Chip.
Well, we're not hearing the audio on this side.
Oh, okay, okay. So I'm just hearing that on my side.
So your earbuds and not on the speaker where we can hear it.
There wasn't any.
Oh, I heard it through the computer.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well,
So, all right. So let me show you what that looked like now. So here I've got the slide before that, and now I play this slide. Are you hearing that now?
Mm-mm.
No.
Okay. Okay, so what I was seeing on my side is all that narration I was doing, that chatter, 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 was happening while while it was playing. So it plays automatically, it starts automatically when you've recorded the slideshow, and it does it for whatever, as many or as few slides as you use. If you look at the bottom of my slide here, you see the little audio that lets you know that there's on that particular slide. And I actually did narration for 2 different second slide that had narration. And one of the things to look out for, or just to know this is how it functions, is as you're recording a slideshow, it'll record what you're talking about. But then if you transition to a new slide, during that transition period, that fractions of a second or a second that it takes to transition, you do not get the audio. It doesn't come through. It freezes the audio during that. I don't know if I explained that well.
But we demonstrate this in the PowerPoint course a little better. But so if you're trying to do a smooth narration through all the slides, there's going to be a little gap in your voice every time the slide changes. So you got to be mindful of that. If that's what your goal is to record it, you got to pause when the slide changes.
Right, right. So the point of this being, originally one of the drawbacks was we don't have a way to mark up the slides or to point to it as we're doing an in-person presentation. So these are just some workarounds to be able to demonstrate things as we're going along and presenting information. All right, so video is our other backup there. All right, and then when the party's over, you just hit the escape key, and that ends that exits out of the broadcast as you were seeing. And then there was and there was a little X. Maybe you noticed when I exited out earlier, you have a different tab. It's not the slideshow tab. It's the broadcast. The present online tab is there. And then there's a place you can just exit from the presentation. I hesitate to do it again just because sure. It'll take all the upload time.
Well, yeah, we're coming up on an hour, so I think we're in a good spot. Let me answer one of the questions in the chat. DJ was asking how to use the screen recorder once again. And there's a couple of different things that look like screen recorder. The one that Kelly was showing is under the insert tab. Kelly, if you want to kind of show that on yours, it's under
Yeah.
insert, and then towards the end under media, you'll see screen recording. And that's what she was using to do that screen recording. Now when was that added, Kelly? Was that 2016 or 2019? Do you remember?
I think 16. I think 16.
I think so too. There is also, what Jackie mentioned in the chat, there is also the ability to record the entire slideshow, which will turn the entire presentation into a video. If you want to kind of make a prepackaged presentation to send out to somebody as a video, that's a good way to do it. Again, without needing any separate software, no Camtasia, no Screencast, no ScreenFlow.
And then you can also export it as a video too. So you could record all the audio using that, and then export it. It puts it out as a video. So that's another option. And well, we go into more detail in the PowerPoint class, but
I guess the bottom line is there's a lot of cool stuff in PowerPoint. So let's take some questions and see what we haven't answered yet. Jackie, what have we not answered yet?
Well, there was one suggestion about using Zoom It, which is a free annotation tool, if you want to use that with your PowerPoint online. So I'm not sure how that would work.
I'm not familiar with that one. Kelly, are you? Zoom It?
that's different than this Zoom. Gosh, I feel like I've heard of it before.
Yeah. And then was Lester's question a real question, or was that it?
I'll answer Lester's question, sure.
Okay.
So the question is, why can't Windows 10 PowerPoint 13 show an embedded YouTube video when there is no internet connection? Because it can't. Because YouTube doesn't work on non-internet connections. That's a limitation of YouTube. Sure.
There was another question about what is your favorite part about using PowerPoint online?
It's
free and easy.
And when you don't have bandwidth issues, it works like a charm. It's just another resource. With all that's been going on, one of the groups that I meet online now, they're like, what are we going to do if Zoom crashes? Well, here's another option you have. If God forbid, something happens to Zoom.
And we also have some questions in the Q&A. We have one from Emily who says, I once had to link a video to a PowerPoint presentation. It worked on my personal computer. I double checked to make sure it worked on the computer in the conference room. However, once I got up to do the presentation, it didn't work. I still don't know what I did wrong. Any thoughts?
So read the first part again.
I once had to link a video to a PowerPoint presentation. It worked on my computer. I checked it in the conference room. It worked. Then I came back to do the presentation and it didn't work.
So I'm taking the keyword link there. So there's a difference between embedding a video and embedding a link that comes from an online presentation. So I'm guessing internet connectivity. What would be your guess?
It depends on how long ago it was. The older versions of PowerPoint, especially 2013 and older, really struggled a lot with video. Since 2016, it's gotten much better and much smoother. Yeah. But anything that involved video, especially embedded video or linked video prior to 2016 was a real issue. Otherwise, I'm not sure. It's sometimes, especially with that sort of thing, it's kind of like plugging in a USB cord, except with a USB cord, you plug it in once, it doesn't work, flip it over, it doesn't work, flip it back the first way, it works again. Sometimes with the videos, it doesn't work the third time. I don't know why. And then Shika, if I said your name right, says, can I embed some widget that shows current temperature or similar stuff? That's an interesting question. There used to be a way to insert a live web page, but I think they took that out, didn't they? Do you remember?
Did. The last time I was playing with it, yeah, they had taken that out.
Yeah, so prior to 2016, there was a way that you could insert a live website into a PowerPoint slide, and every time it came up, it would show whatever was live on the web page. And for whatever reason, they've taken that out of the newer versions of PowerPoint. So I don't know of a way to do that currently. I'm sure there's a lot of PowerPoint add-ins. I'm sure somebody somewhere has something you can add in to do it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Oh, and Emily says in the chat that it was older than 2013. That's probably what it was.
Add in.
No, Kelly, your audio is breaking up a little bit.
Okay.
Kelly, are you there?
Uh-oh.
I heard part of you.
Uh-oh.
There you are. Oh, Kelly, did we lose you? I hate that we might have lost Kelly right at the end. Maybe she can get back on. Jackie, were there any other questions we hadn't answered?
No, there wasn't any more questions. Larry mentioned that he sometimes uses PowerPoint to make short video snippets to like put in a bigger professional video. And I was just saying that we sometimes do that at Bigger Brains too. If we want to have animated graphics that you, since you can export videos, it can be helpful that way. But I didn't have any other questions.
Yeah, that's one of the great things we do with I mean, PowerPoint has such really cool animations, and if you format the background of your slide to be a color that you can pull out, and I see Kelly's back with us, so you can chroma key it in a video app. You can use those animations and then take out the background in your video app, and it works really, really well for that.
And I did want to mention too, because you're able to use PowerPoint online, you'll look super cool. You know, you'll impress your friends. I guess that's my favorite part about doing it. You can impress your friends.
And that's not a small thing, because especially if you're like a salesperson, you know, being able to impress your clients, to make them feel that you're competent and professional and cutting edge. I mean, those are big things when you're in a sales type situation.
Absolutely.
If anybody else has any questions, you can raise your hand in the participants window or type a question in the chat window. And we'll give everybody just another minute or two to ask any questions. And again, we really appreciate you guys all being here. While we're waiting for any last minute questions, please join us next week. I've already mentioned it a couple times, but Amy Babinchak is going to be here talking about working in Microsoft Teams. Amy is actually the teacher of our new Microsoft 365 Administration Essentials course, which is not even out yet. It should be out in, Jackie, when would you say? The next day or two? I'm just kidding. Jackie had a heart attack. It'll be out in the next month or so. It's close to being done. But she's a great job with that. She's a real experienced Microsoft Pro, and so I'm really looking forward to her presentation next week. See if we have any new questions.
Oh, I see. Larry's asking if there's differences between the Windows version and the Mac version. Larry, I haven't seen any significant differences. In fact, I had to remind myself to use my PC version of PowerPoint because I figured more people will be on a PC than on a Mac. But when I was doing a lot of my experimenting and testing things out, I was on the Mac version of PowerPoint, and it worked the same way as the PC version.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys again for being here. Kelly, thank you so much for being brave enough to be our first presenter for Work at Home Tech Training Tuesdays. I hope this was helpful for you guys. If you do have any suggestions on what you'd like to see at future webinars, definitely let us know. You can email me at chip@bigger-brains.com or visit the getbiggerbrains.com website and fill out the contact us form. So thanks so much, everybody. Kelly, thank you so much. Jackie, thanks for being our moderator. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And don't forget to wash your hands.